Hey, this is Chappy from Roll Call with Chappy, and I have a special guest, Emily Hayden, IFBB pro, podcast host, life coach, athlete. You do it all, right?
Yep.
And Emily, do me a favor and share how we did meet.
Yeah, so I came across your story on Instagram, actually. And from the second I read your story, I was inspired. Like, I felt inspired to live life. And so I reached out to you and I was like, yo, this is amazing. Like, I feel like I could see who you were. I feel like I could see the path that you were on and what you were capable of. And I was really excited to feel like I could be a part of that journey. So yeah, I was a supporter as soon as I found you.
I would say, like, you're the first one that not discovered me, but kind of discovered me. You know, I was interviewed on some YouTube prison shows. And even after Vice TV did that show on me, like, I remember you had actually DM'd me and asked me to come out to do your podcast in LA. And I remember thinking, what the hell would this chick want to hear about my story?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you seem like so normal and like, I'm serious, like, because I didn't get this whole swing of things until then. You know, like, I was still like hiding the prison stuff, and I didn't know, like, I wasn't like completely open about it. And although I knew I could help people from prison, I never thought that like a normal person like you would want to know what I had to say. So it was like, it went a long way with me, and like, I'm serious, like, it lit a light in my brain, and I was just like, holy shit, I can do this if someone like that wants to be on me. So thank you for being here. I am super happy that you are the first guest in the new studio. And this is, like I said, this interview is way, way more than a long time coming. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, what an introduction. And that like makes my heart so happy. When I think about that time when I discovered you and I DM'd you, I just saw you. Like, I saw who you were. You didn't need the numbers. You didn't need a fancy studio. You didn't need anything. Like, I saw who you were, and I was like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I already saw kind of, I feel like where you're going, you know, and you're still not even there, right? Like, you've done so many incredible things in the time of being out, but you're a world changer, and I saw that. So it's you, and I just got to reflect that to you. So I'm glad that you were able to receive that back then.
Well, hopefully I can do that today just a little bit.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And I don't even know, like I said, I know where you are now, but I want to get just a little bit of how you got brought up, because I was actually reading a little bio about yours, and like your dad was training people and you were like yelling at them in the gym about one more rep. So what was childhood like for you?
Yeah, so I grew up in a large family. There were 5 of us when I was growing up. Now later, mixed family. There's 7 kids total, so there are sisters.
Pretty alpha male family too, right?
I mean,
seems like it.
You're not going to like say it out loud, but like, could we take on any other family?
Yeah,
for sure. Like, I'm not going to question, can we throw down with anyone?
For sure.
And also, like, in the neighborhood, we grew up on a cul-de-sac. So me and my 4 siblings, like, we were always the team, right? Yeah. And I'm surrounded by 2 brothers. I'm the third one. So it's my older sister, Julia, then Daniel, then me, then Samuel, then Elizabeth. Okay. And so growing up,
I have funny you call him Samuel.
Oh, yeah. No, I actually don't. I usually call him Sam, but like, I think when I intro, it's, feels more professional. But growing up, so I had my older brother and my younger brother. I was closest with my older brother, and we caused havoc. But we would always like take turns for who got in trouble. So like one of us would get caught and the other one would just look at each other. We wouldn't say like, yo,
that one's on you this time.
Yeah, like we would take it and we'd take the hits and just, you know, we knew, you know, it wasn't like tit for tat, but like whoever got caught, the other one wasn't getting in trouble.
So you guys were all into fitness and stuff growing up?
Yeah, man, we played like hockey in the streets, basketball, football, rugby. Like I remember we played this wrestling game and none of the guys would like let me play. And I was like, let me play. Yeah. And I tackled this guy off the trampoline onto the floor. Like literally the air got knocked out of both of us. And I stood up, pretended like I was fine, but like I could not breathe. Yeah, everyone knows that feeling. And it was dope too. Cause like my brothers always had my back. Like there's this one time this little kid was like mouthing off to me, you know, we're young kids, but like my brother stood in front of me and was like, you know, he let him know like, yo, you're going to go through me. Yeah. And that was like a really cool feeling. So for me, the brother-sister bond was like always so special to me, you know, and I love my sisters too, but we argued more when we were little. My family, you know, it's all that I knew, and it felt like the perfect family to me. To be totally honest, we kind of grew up in the hood in Houston, and a lot of people don't know that. So like,
when you grow up like that, a lot of times I feel like you don't even know that you're in the hood. Like,
exactly.
I didn't know how poor we were growing up. I thought everybody's mom had $60 to her name. You know what I mean? Like literally, that's how I thought the world worked.
I thought it was normal that cops were running through the backyard chasing people at night, and that, you know, the neighbor down the street got convicted for murder, and that this and that, know, like.
See, I knew it wasn't normal when cops were chasing me down the street though, at least.
Well, I was the one being chased.
Okay, all right. Big difference there.
Yeah. And then, you know, you have my dad who's tatted head to toe, who says he's never been to prison. And I'm like, I just still don't believe that.
Yeah.
But he actually does speak in prisons like all the time.
Go into that a little bit too, because I don't want to forget about that.
Yeah.
Your dad speaks, and what does he do in the prisons now?
Yeah. So he just goes and he shares God and he shares his relationship with God. And he has some incredible stories. Man, he would be an interview for you.
I would love to have him on.
We got to get him on the show. He doesn't travel, but I think he'd probably travel for you.
Okay.
So he goes in there and he speaks, and man, he shares just the wildest stories of like God moving in like an undeniable way.
Yeah.
Like one of those ways where like the hardest of the dudes in there are like, their hearts are like opened and melted. And it's really encouraging. So yeah, you got to get him on the show.
Tell me, I'm sure you talked to him a lot about it. Like, why does he do that?
I don't know if I've ever asked him like why. That's why I love you. When I listen to your podcast, I'm like, he's the best interviewer because you have this like natural curiosity.
Yeah.
And I think it gets like the best things out of people. I don't think I've ever asked him why. It's just something my dad's always done.
That's my first thought right now is I was like, why would a guy like that that's never been to prison want to go talk to him?
That's the thing too. Thank you. Is I'm like, Dad, are you sure you've never been to prison or did you just never get caught?
I think your dad for sure has a DOC number somewhere.
I think maybe he just never got caught. I'm kidding. I love you, Pops.
No, but I'll tell you, like, why he probably does that is because he gets like reactions that you can't get from people on the streets. And on top of that, he gets gratitude more than you can get from talking to anyone on the streets. Like you get a different perspective that nobody can offer you out here. And it's like, until you've talked to people that like, it's so crazy. I don't know how to say I love prison, but like,
yeah,
I love the aspect of prison. And like, when you can like use it as a benefit instead of a crutch, like prison saved my life. And not only that, like prison made me more beneficial to the streets, and like prison taught me like stuff that the rest of the world doesn't even have out here. So like I said, as long as I like, my number one rule with myself is like, as long as I remember that like my best day in prison is not as good as my worst day on the streets. Like I have an advantage on the rest of the world. Why? Because like I didn't have my freedom. You know what I'm saying? Like when you can like be slammed in like a 5x7, like I was in a cage smaller than that little area back behind you, like 24 hours a day with 3 showers a week. So like when you can do that and you don't even get to breathe fresh air, and like I get to come outside now and just like breathe fresh air, like I have another sense of gratitude that nobody on the world has.
It's like you have this fire underneath you.
And they can't touch that. And that's, I'm telling you, that's why I asked that, because that's why your dad does that.
That's dope.
Because he could go to the church and preach this shit all the time, and he's going to be getting probably dude like, oh, I'm struggling with my bills. Me and my wife aren't getting along that well. But then when you got a dude right here, I'm being serious.
Yeah,
but then when you got a dude right here that's doing 2 life sentences and is never getting out of here, but literally somehow found God in the middle of this in solitary confinement, like a Carlos Vasquez story.
Man.
You can't get that on the streets.
No.
You know what I mean? And you can't pay money for that. Like that's better than therapy.
Yeah, 100%. And also, I think it's because people in prison are just real. I actually associated it to people in AA.
Yeah.
I fell in love with AA, and I'm not an alcoholic, but I went for a while.
Yeah.
I went to AA for a while because I dated someone in AA. I love the people. So when I went to a new city, I went to AA.
Yeah.
I even said like, hey, I'm an alcoholic, but I wasn't.
For sure.
I just like the people, and I actually found God there. Like I really found like a real relationship with God there. And I had always had a relationship, but like I felt an authenticity that I didn't find in church.
Shout out to that, and especially all my people locked up. Like Emily Hayden was going to AA meetings. Like it saved my life. I don't go too often anymore, but it saved my life, and it's such a cool community. And like people like genuinely care, and like when like another rule that I had about myself is like I spent so much time. People don't realize that, and they always ask me like, what was the worst part about doing 12 years? Besides missing your family, like the top few for me is no dogs. I'm not even joking. That was like literally the entire top of my list. So anytime my family would send me pictures, like I would bitch if there wasn't pictures of dogs in there.
Yeah, of course.
So like it's dogs. And then the worst part about it for me was like the fact that I had to be surrounded by pieces of trash every day.
Ooh.
75, 80, 90% of those inmates in there like deserve to be in there and are never getting out. And a lot of them don't deserve to get out. There's a ton of them that are really, really good dudes. We all just did stupid mistakes.
Yeah.
And I try to be there for the dude that like, and I'm not like an easily brainwashed dude, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, you get so swallowed up in the prison politics and then like before you know it, like you're doing stuff that you never thought you were doing. You're just like trapped. And it's like, you're not even living your life for anybody else. So it wasn't like until I found God, it's like, I didn't even know what the hell I was doing in there.
Wow. And then finding him gave you what?
Clarity and everything. And it made
Yeah.
my entire life make sense. Like the second I found God, and shout out to Sheriff Lamb because he's the guy that literally made me find God again.
Really?
Yeah, it was Sheriff Lamb.
While you were still in?
No,
After?
a year and a half ago. I was at lunch with him and Mason, Gun Fu Fighter.
I love Mason.
Yeah,
Shout out Mason.
Yeah, and it just clicked like literally that night. And I prayed that night. It was my first time praying in almost 10 years. And it was all from Sheriff Lamb. And what it did then, it's not only like it gave me a little bit more purpose now, but it instantly made my entire life make sense.
Really?
Because I felt like I was shorted on life. And I felt like, why would I get 12 years in prison? And then not only that, like, why would I be like slammed down? Like I did probably 8 years in solitary confinement out of my prison sentence, you know, like nobody did that and made it out here. You know what I mean? And when I find God, then I just realized like I was put through that because I'm tough enough to get through it. Now I can help people that aren't even in as bad of a situation. I can be like, yo, if I got through this, why can't you get through that?
Damn right. And here's the thing, you being able to share what you share, it's going to speak to people in a way that someone who hasn't gone through what you've been through, they won't be able to hear it. Like I kind of relate that to, you know, I did an interview with JC Wrong to Strong the other day, which
shout out to him.
Shout out to him. Thank you so much for connecting us. That episode, that conversation has forever changed my life.
I already have goosebumps just thinking about it. He's one of the most inspirational, crazy, I can't even put words on his story. I don't even know how to describe him anymore. I
always have this moment, like when I meet, like even you, right? Like when I meet someone, I'm like, there's a reason why we're meeting. I don't really know what it is yet. And there's no pressure to figure it out, but like, I'll know when it is. His happened like pretty quickly. And during the interview, it was just like an overwhelming, like, this is why we met. And he taught me a level of forgiveness that I didn't know was even possible, that I didn't know I needed. He literally gave me forgiveness and compassion for somebody that really hurt me in my life, that I thought I had already forgiven, because mentally I wanted to forgive. I knew the pathway was to forgive, and I truly did forgive and, you know, send blessings from a distance kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But it's different when you start to have love and compassion and empathy for the person that hurt you. Because here's the thing, people are not born that way. People are not born to hurt. Mm-hmm. Something happened. And so learning to have compassion for them in that way, like the way I described yesterday, like when he left, I didn't even tell him this. I bawled my eyes out for like an hour because it healed like the deepest part of me. And I can truly say now that like I have empathy and I have compassion, and what I describe it as is an overwhelming amount of God's love. It wasn't my love. It wasn't my compassion. I'm not that loving and compassionate.
For sure.
I can mentally forgive you. I can send you on your way. I can send positive vibes your way. But like God's love overwhelmed me yesterday. And it's actually been a long time since I've felt like that amount of God's love. I legitimately had to check. I'm like, did I smoke something? Like I'm sitting here like it was so overwhelming and so beautiful and so healing. And like that gift has forever changed my life.
So yeah,
you connected us.
Yeah, when he's been on my show too, and I had him on twice back to back because I was like, I was blown away. I met JC when he had just gotten out, and somehow we met on Instagram or something like that. So he's like, come out and work out with me. So I drive up here to go work out with him. And I don't know what I'm getting into. All I see is the images on YouTube and stuff like that. But I'm like, oh, I'm thinking it'll probably be a cool interview or something like that. Mm-hmm. And we go there and work out. And I could tell, like, I just know people and dudes that have been locked up. So like, granted, he wasn't like breaking the law or something like that. His mindset, I was like, this dude is still far, like, I was so scared of being out here and like getting involved with the wrong crowd. Like even that one day of hanging out with him, I was like, cool dude, but still not there mentally for me to be associated with. You know, and I told him this.
That's smart.
I was like, we're because we literally walked on the park, and he's just like telling me like where he's at and everything. And I'm just like, this dude has still got that prison mentality. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I don't mess with dudes that have the prison mentality. And then somehow he like found God even more, and like showed it to my podcast with his pastor. He travels everywhere with his pastor.
No way.
With a Bible, and he like says, this used to be my gun, now it's my Bible. And
wow.
He'll call me.
I carry both.
Yes, right. He'll call me on the most random days that I could be like having a horrible, horrible day. And I swear he'll call me and be like, dude, God told me to call you. I know you're struggling right now. Let's talk. And I'm like, the one day he did, I was literally on my backyard just like pacing back and forth. And like JC calls me. And I'm like,
wow.
And he's probably the only dude I would answer the phone call for. You know what I'm saying? No joke. I was like, I'm not talking to nobody, but I'm like, I thought it was like, I'm not talking to Jason. Like, this is probably a God thing. Maybe I should answer real quick. And then he gets to me and I'm just like, holy shit. Like, he's literally a vessel from God.
Yeah.
And when you see a dude like him that was raped at 9 years old, like involved with literally the Mexican cartel at 11 years old, and covered in face tats, his whole face slowing down everything. And he can like give his life to God. His number one day and his only rule to himself is just like pay it forward and help people.
And not just that, it's genuine.
Yeah.
Like when he speaks, it is coming from an overflow of his heart. It's not a like, oh, I feel bad for what I did. I'm going to go on this like, God track.
Yeah.
No. It's the most genuine, authentic thing that you will experience. And I think that's why his message changes people, because you see his genuine transformation. And then for me, I'm able to relate that to other people that have done bad things, that have, you know what I mean? And you're like, oh my God, like they deserve compassion. They deserve love. They deserve all these things.
For sure.
So it's, and I think the same of you, right? Like what you've been through is going to speak to people in a way that other people won't be able to.
It works so much when I'm talking to dudes in recovery, because I'm like, I could talk to some youngster that like on the verge of suicide, like literally wants to kill himself. And I've done this before. I took a gun from my handyman, and I literally, that's the only time I've touched a gun since I've been on the streets, but I took it from him. I was like, I don't know what to do with this, but I'm not allowed to touch this thing. And it's like, I can tell them literally a quarter of my story. And then I'm like, you don't think you got it that bad anymore, huh? So it's like, it makes sense. Like I said, the whole God thing, like why I was put in there for all that stuff. It's like my story can get through to people that normal stories can't get through to. You know what I'm saying? And like the one thing about prison is we don't listen to people unless you feel like you've walked our footsteps. And especially it's so discreet in prison to where like, if you haven't been to a 4-yard or something, like you're not going to tell a dude that has been to a 4-yard what to do.
Exactly.
Same as for a 4-yard and maximum security. So like God put me to all those places and max and supermax. And like I was in the hole in supermax even. And I got put in there. Why? Because like now I can tell people that I've been through that and look what I did with myself. Like why can't you? And I tell everybody this: if you just start over and like trying to make yourself a good life on like doing what you think that you can do and actually making the changes tomorrow, like, and you start tomorrow, I can't even tell you how much farther ahead you'll be than where I am. And everyone tells me now, like, dude, must be nice to be you.
Wow.
Where the hell does that come from?
Yeah.
Like a year and a half ago, I had 400 followers on Instagram. I didn't even know anything about the world still. I was a finance manager and all I did was work. And on my days off, I would golf, get massages, and that was my life. And I didn't do anything. I didn't even know how the world worked. I didn't believe in Instagram. I thought it was all stupid.
What changed?
God told me to quit my job. I literally just happened to walk out of my job within over a week span. And it was such a God thing, because I remember thinking, I'm like, I'm going to try and figure out a way out of this place. Like, I just knew I was meant to do more than here. And like the money, you can buy all the cool things. And like, once that's all there and then you have that stuff and it's just like, what's next?
Yeah.
I'm like,
okay, what now?
I remember sitting in that office thinking, I'm like, I know I'm meant to do more than sit in this office. And now it's like, it happens to be every Saturday or Sunday, I happen to be driving right by that same dealership, and it's like sometimes multiple times. And it's like, I still get goosebumps and cry, like making it out of prison is one thing, but then to make $300+ grand a year and have your own office. Yeah. And then like, I chose to walk out on that because I literally wanted to help people. I realized in that short period of time that my story did so much for people that were in really, really bad spots that I honestly felt selfish staying in there.
I think it is selfish.
Yeah.
I think it's selfish to not be the fullest expression of who you are. And so even the people that are like still in prison, and they're trying to figure out like, who am I, and work on personal development, it's the most important thing that you could do. Because I truly do believe that every single person comes into this world with a gift to give to the world. And here's the thing, when you're giving that gift to the world, you're going to be the most fulfilled version of you. You're going to be that version of you that's in that flow state, right? Like, I'm not surprised when things work out really well for me right now. And I know how that could sound, but it's like, I've been the opposite, where it's like everything seems to be going wrong. I'm unfulfilled. I have all the quote unquote things, right? Like even last year was the hardest year of my life. And that says a lot, coming from a lot of the things that I came through that, not a lot of people are aware of. But it was like in these moments of feeling like, okay, I have everything. Why am I still so sad? Why is this not doing it? Like, I thought that these things would do it. I've achieved the success. I have the house. I have all these things that other people are working for.
Sure.
And I just believe that it's because I wasn't playing my note. Like, I think it's like the world, us people, we're like a symphony, right? You might be the drums, I might be the fucking harp, I don't know, or the flute or whatever. We all have this beautiful sound to play. And sometimes we go throughout life and we start playing this other sound. I'm a flute and I try to be a violin. I try so hard, but like I was never meant to be a violin.
For sure.
But when I actually pick up the instrument that I was meant to play and I play that first note, it's like music, literal music to the world. And when we all play in unison, the notes that we were meant to play, that's where it gets good.
So true. And it's like, I'm a big, big believer in like mental health and conversations in your head. And it's like, I was using like, even no joke, driving up here today, I'm like, for one, your head can be like either your biggest liability or your greatest asset. And it's like, and it's all from what you tell yourself in your head. Because like people don't even realize how many conversations you have in your head daily. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like the entire drive up here, I didn't have music on. I'm listening to yours and Mario's podcast.
Oh,
but
no
like,
way.
Yeah,
that was a good one, right?
Yeah, really good.
Oh, I love that one.
But the entire time I'm like psyching myself out. But it's like, if you can just break it down to some simple stuff, right? So like, I've never done 4 episodes in one day before. And like new podcast studio, you're finally here. Like you got me a little nervous even too.
Did I?
Only because this has been such a long time coming. I wanted us to just nail
There's
this
been
stuff.
a little like build up for this
sure.
for like a year.
More than a little build up for sure. So like, I just want to have it right. And then it's like, once I can literally, you know what I told myself, and it's like, it all goes away in 2 seconds. I'm like, I used to talk shit to myself when I was in prison, you know, say like, don't be a bitch. Like you want to be this big boss, like you sit in solitary confinement. This is what you wanted, you know? So I used to have like hard conversations with myself. And now it's like, I get to have the most simple conversation. It's like, yo, am I going to stress out about doing 4 podcast episodes in one day? Or it's like the alternative is I can go back to fucking work or I can go sit in my office for 10 hours. What's better?
Right.
And like literally just that little mindset right there, when I think that, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, what is this? Or go sitting in there in my old office for 10 hours a day. It's like within one day, and it's like after this is done, after one day, it's like it's over with. Just like that. I'm like, this is what I wanted. So stop being fucking scared of the moment.
Yeah. And not just that, but like 1, you're really good at this. 2, I know you enjoy it, right?
I love it.
So it's like, I'm a huge believer in being joyful and getting into the feeling of excitement, like doing what excites you, because we are these energetic beings. Like that is a fact. You know, there's energy in everything in this world. And if you can tap into the energy of joy, of excitement, of inspired action, that is going to create such a different result in your life than feeling resentful or giving into the feelings of stress and overwhelm, which are all real. You can honor those feelings, but then you can choose different. So even like the smallest things, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Like be joyful that you feel the sunshine on your skin. Be like, wow, like ground yourself. I'm so thankful for that. Like that feels so good. There's people in Washington that like never see the sun.
Seriously. Yeah, no.
Like truly like those little
That's
things.
why people in prison have such an advantage on the rest of the world, is because of our perspective right there. Like we can literally be grateful to breathe fresh air.
No kidding.
When I was going to the Sister Mary's house out in LA, and I met the OG Swan.
Yeah.
And I'm pulling up there and I'm like, I know the dude's triple OG from prison. I could tell just by the way he was walking right there. So I'm like, I get out of the car, I'm like, yo, what up, OG? What's cracking? And he's like, nothing, man, just picking up this trash, enjoying this fresh air. That's the first things he said to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I told you this, he's like wearing a clothes that doesn't even fit him, like jeans that are cut up with a string as a belt, a dress shirt that's like literally cut in half. And like in the worst drug run on the world, you couldn't catch me wearing that outfit, no matter what it was. Damn. And this dude doesn't even trip on that shit. What does he say? He's grateful to breathe fresh air out there, picking up trash at like 60-some years old. And the dude 40-some years in prison straight. He has a different perspective on life. He sat in his cell for so long and didn't get to breathe fresh air. So now it's like little shit phases him, but it's like he has such a good perspective on life now that he can be grateful to literally just walk outside and breathe fresh air.
Yeah.
When another person can like get a bad text or something like that and be mad in the morning and like literally ruins their entire day. But at him, it's like, hell no. That's like such little shit in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
And the quicker that we remember that, the better off that we are.
Yeah, 100%. Gratitude is like one of the most important things.
Gratitude and perspective are the 2 biggest rules for me in life.
Yeah, 100%. And I will say, you know, I've always been huge on gratitude and perspective. I've been doing this like personal development, spiritual journey for a long time. And last year I hit this place, and I got to be honest, like I have all the tools. I know to be grateful. I am grateful. But one of the most isolating, like hard feelings in the world was feeling like I had no room to feel the way that I did. It's almost like I was minimizing what I was feeling, and worse, I couldn't talk about it. Yeah. Because I knew that like, holy crap, like I truly am grateful, but like, why is there so much pain inside? Why am I feeling this? And what I had to do is I finally opened up to a friend and told them how I was actually feeling. And I couldn't even like spit it out.
Honestly, is it tougher for someone like you because you have this whole image to portray? So you don't want to like come off like you're ungrateful because you are going through stuff? Does that ever come to your head too?
1000%, because I'm like, and not just that, it's my own self-talk, my own like knowing and awareness of like, yo, I used to sleep in my car. And I was thankful that I had a car and that I didn't sleep in the street.
Yep.
Like, so my perspective going from that to being in a 4-bedroom, 4-bath house, beautiful with like recovery, all this stuff. Like, I'm like, I am so grateful, but like, I cannot deny the fact that I'm like dying inside, like literally dying inside, and it doesn't make sense. And I think the worst thing you could do is like invalidate your feelings or try to pretend that it's not there, right? But finally, like opening up and speaking about it, I was able to, it was actually Bobby.
Really?
And yeah, like, and I didn't mean to actually, like I had a few.
Shout out to Bobby the Sauce.
Yeah. We were at an event and I had some alcohol, I had some drinks, and we were just having a good time. But like something came out of my mouth that made him go,
Yeah, right.
Like, what was that? Like, that wasn't normal, right? And he said something like, that made it sound like you don't want to be here, like on earth. And I just looked at him and I couldn't answer. I couldn't verbalize anything, but like my eyes, he knew, you know, and he was able to like have a real talk with me. And I couldn't open up about it because I was in such a dark place and I felt like I didn't deserve to feel the way that I felt because I was so grateful, because I was so lucky in this world and had worked so hard to be there. So, you know, I think that's something that a lot of people might struggle with. I know there's the opposite, right? People who are just in the worst position ever, they have nothing, they feel that way. But it's almost like I just felt like I couldn't open up about it because I had everything. And I was so grateful, truly. But I believe now, looking back, truly, that it was my higher self. It was God. It was something that was like, yeah, I'm glad that you're done achieving all the things that you decided to achieve, but your actual calling in this life is somewhere else. And I need you to leave it. I need you to leave everything that you've built for yourself.
Which you fully did.
Which I did.
Where do you live right now?
Technically nowhere. Technically everywhere.
I've had a few people ask me that, like, oh, where does Emily live now days? And I'm like, I think in this big sprint event or something like that, or LA or Vegas. She's just all over the place.
So my home base is San Diego.
Okay.
I have stuff in storage in Texas, Vegas, and San Diego. And I have everything that I need in my car, podcast equipment, all my stuff. So I'm technically living out of my car, but I'm looking to build a camper van because
So did you just rent a Sprinter van?
I rented one for that big trip.
Okay.
Right now I'm in my regular car,
okay.
Which I'm going to sell and buy a camper van in. So my goal and what I'm going to do now is I'm already doing it. I just don't have the van, but I'm doing a traveling podcast tour. So here I'm podcasting with you. I have my own podcast. I'm doing 4 episodes while I'm here. I have 2 episodes in Vegas. I just scheduled 2 in Austin, Texas next week. So I'm bouncing around doing podcasts with people that I love, who I feel like have incredible messages and stories and perspective to share. And it's one of those, I know that I was meant for this. Like, I know that I was meant for this. And for example, even like yesterday, you know, that impactful of an episode, I'm like, it's so clear to me that like I'm on the right path, you know? And then when I think about like what excites me and what makes me happy, traveling, seeing the beautiful earth. Like when I'll share this. I haven't shared this. What got me out of the hardest spot that I had ever been in, where I genuinely didn't think that I would choose to keep going, is I finally said, all right.
Hold on. When you genuinely didn't elaborate on that a little bit more. Let's get deep here.
Okay.
There's people like, I'm serious, like there's women that are like facing life sentence right here that are like literally on the verge of suicide every day, and everyone thinks they have shitty lives that are listening to this podcast. Like, this has a different audience than most people. Like, just let's get real. Tell me how like serious you are about that.
The pain, the inside pain was so it's actually not even fully gone. But the pain that like at the deepest part of me was so unbearable. I genuinely didn't I fantasized a lot about not being here, and the fantasization or whatever that, it started to become all the time. And I finally got to this point where I talk shit to myself like you do.
Yeah.
And I was like, do or die, bro. Like, stop, like shit or get off the pot.
For sure. I got goosebumps from head to toe right now.
Like, I had to tell myself that. And I was like, all right. And I was like, would I be proud of myself if I went out right now? Would I be proud of even just the last year of my life? And I was like, no. Would I be proud of what I've done? Do I feel like I've really done it here on earth? Did I do that earth experience? I'm like, no, man. I'm like, all right, well then you can be done, but you need to go do all those things first, right? And I know it's kind of a messed up way to think about it, but it's the switch that took that option off the table for me. So I said, okay, before I'm done on this earth, I'm going to go do all these things that I know that I was meant to do. I'm also going to go experience some dope shit that I know that I'm, want to experience. And it was like a mental switch that kind of like just took that option off the table for me. And then I just started taking massive action. And I also said, okay, all the energy that I've given everyone else, all the power that I've given over to everyone else, relationships and toxic and abusive situations that I was in, overpouring and overgiving to everyone around me to try to make everyone else's life better. What would happen if I put 100% of that effort into me? What would happen if I took care of my mental health, my mental sanity, of my physical fitness and wellness and well-being? And so that switch really helped me just to start taking inspired action. And if that, pain came up, I allowed myself to feel the pain, but now there's no more fantasizing let's make this end.
One piece of advice. How do you, for people that are like that, they feel trapped. Like what'd you do to take the next step the next day? Like, was it like?
Literally drank water, fed myself. I literally wasn't eating. Like, okay. I literally couldn't even force myself to eat. And I'm a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
I've competed 21 times. I'm a professional athlete.
When you were in town last time you stayed with me, you ate more than me.
Exactly. Like, I'm a professional athlete. Like, I'm always eating. I'm on top of my meals and my training. Like, that's normal for me. I got to a point where I would sit in front of food. I would make the food and I was just like, fuck. And I'd go sit down. I literally couldn't force myself to eat. And so yeah, I just started taking action. I went to the gym. It didn't matter. Like,
one little thing a day starts making a difference.
Yes.
Too, and then just add to it.
Yes. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start with the gym and my workouts and my food and my water. And I'm going to protect my energy at all costs. I'm going to protect my mind at all costs. I'm going to read. Reading books really helped me. Like, reading books, podcasts, YouTube
Want to shout out
videos.
any books or anything?
The book that helped
especially
me,
for inmates right now too, if there's any books that could help them get through some times or something, because I'm not a big reader.
Bro.
I know.
You should be. I'll give you some books that'll be helpful to start. I would say for them, The 4 Agreements.
Okay.
Have you heard of that one by Don Miguel Ruiz? It's really short. You could read it literally in one day, most likely. It's short, simple,
even a guy with
to the point.
Eighth grade education like myself?
100%.
All right.
It's super easy and to the point. The 4 Agreements. I read it in the bathtub and was like, this is amazing. And then I got out and finished it. It's super short. The 4 Agreements, because it really helps you to stop giving your power away to everyone else. It helps you to stop reacting to everyone, and you start responding and taking ownership of how you show up to different situations. It helps you to not take things personally, right? So when someone's just goes off on you, it literally has nothing to do with you. That is within them. Pressure shows what's inside. So when people under pressure type of situations respond a certain way, that's literally, they're just showing you what's inside of them. The book that helped me, I don't know if it would be helpful for them or not, but the book that helped me during that time was a book called Boundary Boss by Terry Cole. She's a psychologist, and I didn't realize that I had a lack of boundaries, meaning I overgave, I just didn't have boundaries around time, money, resources, my own energy. And once I started at the root of that, right, because you can go deeper into this, I didn't understand my own value, and I didn't protect and love and cherish myself first. Had I done that, I wouldn't have overgiven or allowed people to step over my own boundaries. So learning, educating myself, it was education, educating myself about that first, and then being able to apply that in my life really helped.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's why too, I really look at the energy as our being, right? We are these divine beings. And I know there's a lot of people, it's hard to understand that conceptually, right? But this earth suit is a meat suit. It's an earth suit. At the core is this energetic being. And there's some practices that have really helped me. Have you ever done breath work? One-on-one?
I tried it once.
A one-on-one breath work session?
I did it on Zoom before, yeah.
On Zoom. Okay. So breath work is really incredible because it literally moves around the energy in your body, and it helps you to become aware of what's inside at your deepest part of your core.
Shane, the one that taught you about the breath work?
So initially, but Justin's the one who took me through my first one. In that first breathwork experience, I hear that people can get really emotional, and that's very common, because it releases trauma, it releases emotions that are stuck in the body. So it's very common for that to happen. I personally didn't the first session, but at the very end of the session, it's we took the last breath and then we exhaled. And once I exhaled, it felt like I sunk into levels of myself, and I reached this piece of myself at the most inward part of myself. Mind you, at this time, I'm fresh off leaving a toxic, very abusive situation. And yet at the deepest part of my core was the most amount of peace that I had ever felt in my life.
Wow.
And it brought me to tears because the thought that followed that was, oh my gosh, the thing that everybody is looking for everywhere, they're looking for it everywhere externally. It's literally within them, always.
Yep.
And I believe that is the God within, right? There's one God experience that I had, and it kind of goes along with this, where, you know, I just got really still and really present. And mind you, I grew up Christian. I grew up with faith in the household. I grew up going to church. I've read my Bible for literally my whole life, right? And I had a lot of faith, and I believed that there was God, but I didn't have an unshakable faith. I had heard that some people had this unshakable faith that no matter what, they knew at their core that God was real, that he existed. They would never question it again. And I prayed, and I was like, I don't have that. But if it's real, I want it. I want the unshakable faith. I want to know without a shadow of a doubt that God is real. And so I prayed for that, and I didn't get it for months, but I did see like little coincidences, little things happening where I'm like, that feels like God is like speaking to me, right? Yeah. However, I got into my bedroom, I sat on my bed, and I was just like, God, I just want to be with you. Like, just be with me. I want to be with you. And I did not expect anything. Like, I didn't even know this was possible. But like from the inward depths of my soul, God spoke to me, and it was like a internal voice that wasn't mine. And I knew that it was God immediately. And he said, I am here. I have always been here. And that's what this tattoo is here. Like, I got this to like signify that one day and moment for me.
Damn.
And when he expressed that, when he said that, it was like instant tears. Like, I was like bawling, and then like I stopped crying, and I'm like I knew that God was like with me and speaking to me in that moment. And it almost felt like the sunshine was like in my bedroom with me. And I asked questions, and he responded. And I asked, I don't know, this is just me, but like, I literally joked. I'm like, now I go back and I'm like, Emily, there are some better questions you could have asked in that moment. But I literally went from like crying to, and mind you, I am dead sober. Like, this is not at all any sort of experience with any help. I am sober. I am like experiencing God on a real level. And I asked multiple questions. And one of the questions that I asked, and I can't share the specifics by any means, but one of the questions that I asked was like a funny joke question. Well, what about this? And he was like, you're going to have everything you've always wanted. And that one question, that was the craziest one to me, that I imagined, okay, I bet in like maybe 10 years, that'll be cool when it happens. Like 3 weeks later, someone comes up to me in the gym. They're like, you're Emily Hayden. I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to do this for you. And it was that thing.
Stop.
And I literally knew, I was just like, no way, man. No way that God made the craziest thing happen first that I would never have been able to do on my own.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, it's one cool thing that I learned that's like, when I found God, it's like, it just made me a better person overnight. Because, and I'll be real, like, even like I used to litter and shit. Like, seriously.
Bruh.
I'm no joke. Like,
No, I'm not judging.
Yeah, like I'm real as shit.
Yeah,
so like I would, if I would eat a candy bar or something like that, I'd throw the wrapper out the window or something like that. And I'm not joking. Like, right after I found God and I went to go do that, the next day I was like, oh shit, God's watching me now. And I'm not joking. So then I put up a little thing and I put my couple. So, and I'm in test, and I'll show you my car for this. You can go see there's a bunch of little crumbled up pieces of trash in my car right now because I do not litter anymore. And I just throw it right there because it's like, literally, I always have like God watching over me. It's like, there, if I want stuff from God, I can't be a shitty person in front of him. So that's what I tell myself. So it's like, I don't litter, and I always do stuff. It's like, even when another big rule with myself was like, I try to do like the right thing when nobody's watching, because it's like, my thing is right there. God's always watching now that I have God in my life. And it's like, if I'm going to ask him for things and pray for stuff like that, I have to just like be on my shit too. And I can't be a scumbag and do bad things too. Or if not, I shouldn't get anything in return right there. So it's like knowing that I have in my life, and I feel like you have someone like 24/7 watching out for you too, which is kind of crazy, you know, but if you like really break it down, that's what I think about it. And like, I was never a religious person in my entire life before, you know, and it's like, when you have it, it's like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. Here's
the thing though, and I'm sure you already know this, but like, you said like, when you have God, right, you always have someone watching out for you. He was watching out for you long before you knew him. The whole time.
Yep.
You know, JC even shared that on his, on the podcast yesterday, on my podcast. He was saying how he asked God, like, where were you? Where were you? And he was like, I was with you. I was with you, protecting you the whole time. You know, and that's really true. And I love that we're talking about God and faith and spirituality, right? Because I feel like I'm going through this like second spiritual awakening where I spent my whole life in the church, in the Bible, going to these things, right? And right now I'm actually taking a break from those things, because there are certain things that I believe are man-made and man-imposed rules, religious type things that I feel like have kind of seeped in a little bit. And I personally just need a little break from those things. And it's wild because as I've taken a break from like attending church or putting myself in these quote unquote like religious things, I am seeking the truth with my entire heart. Like the journey that I'm on, how I would describe it is I'm on the journey of truth. I just want to know what's true. And I've expressed that to God. And I felt judgment from maybe myself, also from other people for the path that I'm taking right now. They're like, oh my gosh, you're not attending this. Like you're going to go down a bad path. And they impose all of their fear, all of their judgments on me. And so I actually went to a float tank. Have you heard of those?
No.
Dude, okay, it's really cool. It's like sensory deprivation. It's imagine like a little, like a hot tub that has like, it's a big uncovering, right? But it's a big enclosed type of, it's lukewarm water. So it feels warm when you get in it, but it's not a hot tub. You're not hot. And it's sensory deprivation. So you're literally floating and I turn off like all the lights, no music, no nothing. So it's like pure stillness and pure silence. And I went in there with an intention. And the whole goal of that is like to just get still and present. Most people are never actually still in their life. Mm-hmm. I love practices of stillness and presence. That's why I like breath work and like now the float tank or like meditation and all these things, prayer even. But I get really still and I ask God, I was like, God, how can I be all of me always? You know, because I realized that sometimes what I would do is I would adjust my temperature based on the room that I was in. If I was at the bar, I could, you know, be what I felt like people would, you know, feel comfortable with. If I was in a church group, I would, you know, I could
turn
be,
that on.
Yeah. And I didn't want to be that way. Like, I really want to if I die, I want to be the fullest, most authentic version of me always. I want people to know that that's what they got. And it was like one thought and then the next and then the next. And God kind of took me on this like thought journey until all of a sudden he was like, I love you and accept you. No one else needs to. And he was like, I love and accept the version of you that is choosing to not attend these things right now. I love and accept the version of you that is on your journey of truth right now. And it was like one of the most impactful moments, you know. And another moment for me that was really impactful was I was on my camper van trip where I did a solo road trip, just me and my dogs in a van. And I was underneath the stars one night and, you know, I'm vibing out to some music. I'm in my zone, right? And then I'm like, the most beautiful stars, like, and here's the thing too, at home in my house in Texas, when I would dream of doing this kind of road trip, I had this, it was an Instagram ad for this like galaxy thing that like projects the stars.
Yeah, I've seen those.
And I used to have so much fun with it. I'm like, this is so dope. And then fast forward, I'm actually on the camper van. I'm underneath the real blanket of stars and I'm looking and I'm so fulfilled. I don't need anything. I don't even need to speak. I'm not even distracted. Like I'm fully present in the awe of the galaxy. And I'm sitting there thinking, how often do we settle for the fake version of something, for the galaxy, the projection and the fake version, which is never fully fulfilling. Yeah, it felt cool at the surface level, but the deepest part of me, that wasn't fulfilling. Being here was so fulfilling. I could have stayed awake and stared at those for forever. Yeah. And I asked a question. And here's the thing. A lot of people ask about like relationship with God, right? It's not just like going and saying your demands or going and praying. Yeah. You got to be willing to be still. You got to be willing to be present and to listen. And so I asked a question. I was like, God, this world, like it needs help. How can I help? What can I do? How can I be a leader? How can I actually do what you've created me to do? I know who you've called me to be, but like, how do I do it? And I felt like the answer that I received was, you go first. You go first and you show the way. And I felt like it was another level of God, almost like giving me permission to be the fullest version of me. And there's so much freedom in that. Too often in our lives, we are told what we should be and told how to act and even told what the quote unquote right path is. Yeah. Even the right path to God, right? And it's like, we're all individuals for a reason. We all have a different thumbprint for a reason. Yeah. So my way and my path may not be yours, right? And I look at people who are born in the church and they stay in the church the whole time. And I'm like, that genuinely looks like your path and you're doing it amazingly. And I gained so much from you and I'm so thankful for you, you know? And I sometimes wish that and I think for some people there is that respect, but I wish there was more of that respect on the other end for people who like, I was designed this way on purpose. I am curious. I have questions. I want to know the truth.
Yeah.
And here's the thing too, as I'm on this journey of truth, there's all these little things where God is confirming. For example, I went into that float tank, right? And I asked those questions. And when I went home, I journaled and I opened this journal, and it was a journal that has Bible verses at the bottom. And I finished this journaling session, and I haven't journaled in a long time. And at the bottom of the journal, it says, search for me with all of your heart and you will find me. Right after me going into that float tank. And then I close the cover and it says in huge bold words, be still. After I just paid $65 to sit in a freaking float tank to be still and search for God with my entire heart.
Yeah.
Right. So like, I'm on this journey of truth. I'm on this journey of like, I want the real thing. I want the authentic thing. So, you know, I share this because there's not one path, there's not one way, but for everyone listening that like wants to know if it's real, bruh, I know that it's real.
Yeah,
so like, I just encourage you to go on your own journey and not judge yourself and not allow other people to judge you. But if you actually search for the truth, if you're really looking for the real thing, you will find it.
I love that people could look at you like, and even just on your Instagram thing and be like, that chick's got it made. She's not struggling. Like, you can be so real about your struggles like a year and a half ago, where it's like, if you look at your Instagram page, you got it all. You know what I mean? And it's like, could have been in the deepest part of your life a year and a half ago. And it's like, you just got to I always tell people, you got to fight through the tough times. Like Ed Milet says all the time, people like the slightest bit of adversity, people will give up on their dreams and sell their whole dreams just because they get a little bit of adversity. You just got to fight through the tough times. And then like, there is hope at the end. And I always say this now, it's like, I went from thinking I had the shittiest life and like God ripped me off and like everything bad was always going to happen to me. And it's like, not to be cocky now, but it's like the second I like found God and I started putting other people first, like I always say this now, it's like, I feel like I can't miss.
That's good.
You know what I'm saying?
That's good.
Just like what we talked about this weekend, when I was like, well, come down here, this will line up perfect. I was like, and of course, First Form's coming here this Saturday. And you're like, yeah, of course, yeah. And I'm like, it's God. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is our time. Like, and that's why you fight through all the tough times, because like, then stuff does happen. Now it's like, we said we can't miss. Like this, whether it's the schedules lining up, the podcast, people all being here, it's like stuff just keeps happening for you, because like, why? We didn't choose to give up on the tough times. And I still chose to help people and try to put other people first. And you doing the same thing for the past year and a half too, because I mean, I know the struggles that you were going through, you know, and it's like, you know, it's crazy. I see you now, and I remember looking at your exact story when you were out there in the van with the dogs, and I remember thinking, I'm like, I'm so happy that she's happy now. Like, literally, I remember thinking that.
Yeah.
And then the second I was thinking, like, when the hell is she gonna get out to Arizona so I can get her on my podcast?
Yeah.
So like, this is
you know what though? This conversation is why it couldn't happen until now.
Yep.
What I would have shared a year ago, night and day different.
Yep. And I wasn't going to do you on Zoom either. You know what I mean?
Hell
so
no.
Like, we're doing this in person.
You can't do me like that.
Oh,
well, there's one thing I want to say real quick. As you were speaking, this thing, when I feel something strong, I feel like it needs to be said.
For sure.
Darkness and isolation grows. Don't allow it to be in isolation. Don't allow it to stay in. For the longest time, I believe that the pain and the suffering got louder and louder and louder because it stayed here. The second it like came out of my mouth and I was able to talk about it, that was the first like little step towards change, step towards life. Like, I know what it's like to literally feel dead inside, nothing. And I know what it's like after that moment to take steps, and not immediately and not very quickly, but I know what it's like to feel vibrantly alive again. Yeah. So that is possible.
It shows that no matter where you get to in life, you're always going to have struggles.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you could be a billionaire and you're still going to have relationship struggles. Like, dude, JC Rongerstrong, like, he's still going through that. Like, he called me last night crying. I didn't tell you this after your guys' podcast. He called me crying. He's like, I just want to come on your show again. And he's like, I just want to like tell people like all my struggles that I'm still going through to this day, you know, and I want to talk about relationships now. And I want to talk because like, I don't know how to be in a good relationship. I still hurt his significant other right now, you know? And it's just like, people think that like the problems go away just because you got it, or you make a certain dollar figure, you get this many views or something like that. We still all have real life issues.
Yeah, and we're all still figuring it out.
We just don't give up, and that's the one thing we are gonna figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if you put me in the room, I'm gonna figure it out. You know.
Here's the thing: we need each other.
Yeah.
Right. Like, when I look back on some of those moments, I should have called you.
Yeah.
Like, you would have answered the phone. You would have like right away, right? But like, for whatever reason, sometimes, and I think that that's like the
God was giving you your power to go through yourself. You could use me the next time.
That's so right. Damn. That's exactly what it was. I've been literally on this journey of, I don't know why, but for my entire life, it was like everyone else, and my power was in everyone else. So what you just said was really strong, because here's the other thing. When I was in the float tank, there was a moment of like unease and unsettledness, and like fear was coming on me. There was just like these fear thoughts, and instead of like being fearful and giving into it, I was like, let's go. I was like, what darkness, whatever you want to show me, whatever you're about to say to me, let's go.
Yeah.
Because what's in me is so like, that can't be broken.
Yeah.
When you think about all the things in life that break you and mentally break you, emotionally break you, all these things, yeah, like our human selves can be broken, but there's this divine spirit within that literally only gets stronger. It only gets stronger. And I think when you remember that, life can break you. It can break you over and over and over again, but it can never break the divine within.
Yep. And that's what I mean. Like I got untouchable tattooed on me. Like I know that like whatever, my back could be against the wall 50 feet below Earth center, like I'm going to figure shit out. And like, you know why? Because like I tell myself, and because like I have these mental talks and I know I can, because I've been through shit before. And like, if other people tell themselves the same stuff, they can get through anything in the world. Like it's not like we don't have some magic potion.
No.
It's like you literally, it's self-talk. Self-talk is so huge, you know?
That and like truly pursuing healing, right?
Absolutely. That's a good one.
Like I've been on such a healing journey. Like every single week I get on the call with my mentors, healers. I have 2 of them, and we get on the call and I freaking flip into the deep end every single time, and I face it, I handle it, and I get what I need and I move on. And every single week I'm doing that because I truly, healing is freedom.
Yeah.
And if you'll search healing in your life, you'll get freedom. And it's not just by talk things, right? Like breath work has been amazing. You don't talk about anything in that. You actually like heal yourself energetically. The float tank, like it's me and God, it's no one else, right? So like, it's not just therapy. There's not just one modality to heal. And I'd encourage people, like something that was healing for me, and this sounds like really silly maybe, there's this thing called the silent disco. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's where you wear headphones like this. And I was in LA at the time, and you go to the beach, there's a group of like 25 people. We definitely look like stupid hippies with like, you know, yeah, which like some people are, which is totally cool. But you go there, you're all listening to the same music, right? And so it'll be like, I don't know, some really good song on, and you dance on the beach. So when you're an outsider looking in, there's no music, it's the beach, and you see all these people dancing like crazy, and you're like, what? But it's like, I've personally grown from moments like that. So it's yoga, it's meditation, it's breath work. Like there's not a one size fits all. So I just encourage people, like try new things, get out of your comfort zone. And if you want that healing, like it's available for you. Like no one is beyond repair. No one is beyond healing. And there is so much like goodness and freedom that can come from that. So yeah. And I agree with you. Like you just got to keep going. I always say left foot, right foot. And what that means is like when you're in that like really difficult moment, literally look down at your feet, take one step with your left and take one foot with your right, and ask yourself, was it really that hard?
That's a good one.
It wasn't. I can do that again. I can't fucking do 10.
For sure.
But I could do a left foot, right foot.
That's a perfect way to end this one too. You guys, thank you for tuning in. Make sure and subscribe, download, leave me some reviews on Apple, Spotify. It'll be on all platforms. Tell them everywhere to find you. She has, I think, 1.7 million downloads on her Evolve with Emily podcast. So tell them all where to find your podcast and everything. And thank you so much. I hope you guys got a ton of information. I got a ton out of this. I got goosebumps right now still.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was one of my favorite episodes. So thank you for holding that space for me. You guys can find me just Emily Hayden on Instagram, on YouTube. I have a personal YouTube account, and then Evolve with Emily on the podcast, available everywhere.
Bam. Thank you guys for tuning in, and have an awesome week. Thank you again.
Later, guys.